Some stories begin gently, with drawing rooms and garden walks and the civilized clink of teacups, with young women who wait and young men who take their time deciding. This one does not begin there. A woman stands at a fireplace in a borrowed parlor, her hand on the stone mantel, knuckles white, jaw set. Behind her stands a man who has just said the most important words of his life, and said them badly. His name is Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy. 10,000 a year, half of Derbyshire. He has just offered all of it, and she has said no. To understand the fury in her eyes and the crack she will not let him see, we must go back to a house with too many daughters and a world designed to make that a tragedy. Longbourn, Hertfordshire, 1812. The Bennet estate, charming, cluttered, perpetually underfunded, governed on a combination of Mrs. Bennet's anxiety and Mr. Bennet's amusement at that anxiety. Mrs. Bennet has 5 daughters and one obsession, securing them before the law takes everything away. And the law will. When Mr. Bennet dies, Longbourn passes by entailment to a male cousin the family barely knows. The girls inherit nothing. No property, no income, no legal standing. Marriage in 1812 is not romance. It is the only available infrastructure. Netherfield Park is let at last! A young man of large fortune, single! She says the word single the way generals say reinforcements. Before you arrange the wedding, my dear, perhaps we might allow the man to unpack. Elizabeth, Lizzie, is her father's daughter in temperament, the sharpest intelligence in the house. She sees everything. She trusts that seeing absolutely. And that combination of gifts and blind spots will shape every decision she makes over the next 12 months, almost entirely for the worse. For now, though, there is a ball. The Netherfield party arrives. At its center, Charles Bingley, open and warm and delighted by everyone, and his friend, Mr. Darcy, who enters a room the way certain men do, as though the architecture has been briefly reorganized around his arrival. He surveys the room with the cool detachment of a man who has seen drawing rooms in every county and found them all slightly wanting. He does not dance. Within 3 minutes, Bingley has found Jane Bennet across the room. That love story is simple and genuine. Exactly for those reasons, it will be the one most easily sabotaged. Elizabeth watches. She is good at watching. Then she makes the mistake of standing within earshot when Bingley presses Darcy to dance. Come, Darcy, you must dance. I hate to see you standing about in this stupid manner. I certainly shall not. There is not a woman in the room whom it would not be a punishment to stand up with. The one with the dark eyes, I assure you she is very agreeable. Darcy glances over. His eyes find Elizabeth for one moment. She is tolerable, I suppose, but not handsome enough to tempt me. She turns away. The smile is immediate, reflexive, and entirely armor. She files it under contempt and keeps walking. She is not wrong to remember it. She is wrong about what it means.
Enter George Wickham. Red coat, easy smile. The kind of face that makes honesty feel unnecessary. He finds Elizabeth on a village walk within a week, or perhaps she finds him. In a conversation that should be entirely ordinary, he performs an intimacy that is entirely calculated. He speaks as one confiding in an equal, a man sharing something painful, who has perfected the expression that makes it look like the first time. I grew up at Pemberley. His father was everything good to me. He was to have given me a living after his death. And Darcy refused it, left me with nothing. Elizabeth believes every word, not because she is naive, but because the story confirms exactly what she decided the night Darcy called her tolerable. Wickham reads people the way Elizabeth reads people, with the same precision. By winter, Jane and Bingley have fallen thoroughly in love, as thoroughly as 1812 allows,
which means dancing and meaningful glances, and a great deal left unsaid. Then, Bingley leaves Netherfield. No letter that explains anything. No goodbye that means what it needs to mean. Jane says nothing. This is the thing about Jane Bennet. Her goodness is so genuine that she absorbs cruelty politely and finds something generous to say about it. She folds the letter, she sets it on the writing table, and she looks out at the rain. No tears, just a stillness so complete it is almost worse than weeping. Elizabeth sits beside her and holds her hand. There are no useful words. There is only the presence of someone who knows you completely. Elizabeth already suspects who is responsible. She carries it south, toward the thing that will break everything open. Rosings Park, Lady Catherine de Bourgh's estate, all cold grandeur and carved certainty. Darcy visits his aunt. Elizabeth visits Charlotte, now Mrs. Collins, married to a pompous clergyman for the security of a home, a decision Elizabeth cannot entirely approve of and privately cannot entirely argue with. The house is not large enough for both of them to pretend otherwise. He comes to the parsonage one evening when she is alone. He does not sit. He begins speaking with the energy of a man who has been fighting himself for months and has finally, reluctantly, lost. In vain have I struggled. My feelings will not be repressed. You must allow me to tell you how ardently I admire and love you. She waits. She has already read the room. Because Darcy, even now, cannot suppress the other thing he believes. He speaks of her inferior connections, her family's impropriety, his love framed as a battle he fought and lost against good sense, as though she should be grateful to have been worth the inconvenience. She lets him finish. I have never desired your good opinion, Mr. Darcy, and you have certainly bestowed it most unwillingly. From the very beginning, your arrogance and conceit have taught every person you met to think worse of themselves. Do you think anything could tempt me to accept the man who has ruined my sister's happiness? He says nothing. He bows. He walks out into the rain. And for the first time in his life, Fitzwilliam Darcy does not know what to think of himself. The next morning, a letter. His handwriting. Controlled, pressured into the page. She reads it in the garden. The light is pale and early, and entirely unsuitable for what is about to happen to her. He does not argue. He explains. He separated Bingley from Jane, yes, from the belief that the Bennet family's conduct made the match inadvisable, misguided, wrong, but not malicious. As for Wickham, the letter turns here, and Elizabeth's hands tighten on the page. Wickham's debts across 3 counties, his attempt to elope with my sister Georgiana, 15 years old, whose fortune, not her heart, was the object. I tell you this not to justify myself, but because you deserve the truth you were never given. Every conversation with Wickham plays back. She can see it now, in full light. The performance dressed as vulnerability. The charm designed to confirm what she already believed. She had been proud, so proud, of her ability to read people. And she had been wrong about everything. How despicably have I acted? I, who prided myself on discernment, have courted prepossession and driven reason away. Then, the catastrophe that 1812 reserved specifically for families without a man to absorb it. Lydia, 16, reckless in the way of someone who was never told what was at stake. She elopes with Wickham. No engagement secured, no warning sent. By the time the family knows, they are already traveling north. In Austen's England, this is not an adventure. This is ruin. Not just for Lydia, but for every one of her sisters. Jane's prospects vanish. Elizabeth's vanish. All of it. Because a 16-year-old girl was never properly told what was at stake. Elizabeth is at Pemberley, Darcy's estate, when the letter reaches her.
She has been touring it with her aunt and uncle, finding it overwhelming and beautiful and entirely different from the man she had decided he was. She even looks at his portrait, longer than she means to. She is reading the letter when she hears footsteps. She tells him everything. He is there, and she is breaking. She watches something move across his face. Not pity, resolution. He leaves before she can say anything more, and she is entirely certain she will never see him again.
Here is what Darcy does. He finds Wickham in London. He pays the debts substantial enough that most men would have walked away. He arranges the marriage. He ensures Lydia's name is protected, and with it, the names of all 5 Bennet daughters. He does this without being asked. He will tell no one. He will never claim it. It is perhaps the most genuinely loving act in Austen's world, precisely because it expects nothing in return. Then, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, Darcy's aunt, ancient, imperious, magnificent in fury. She walks into the garden with the absolute certainty of someone who has never had a door closed in her face. Are you engaged to him? To my nephew? I am not. And will you promise me, give me your solemn word that you will never enter into such an engagement? I will not make that promise. The carriage disappears. Elizabeth watches it go. Then, quietly, briefly, alone in the garden, she laughs. The simple, uncomplicated sound of someone who has stopped being afraid.
He comes back, not with ceremony, not rehearsed. He walks toward her on a gray morning lane, and he is different in a way that is difficult to name precisely. Whatever he was armored in before has been quietly, privately removed. He is simply a man, which, for Fitzwilliam Darcy, is the hardest thing he has ever managed to become. They stop on the lane, very close. I have been selfish all my life, in practice, though not in principle. What you said at Hunsford, I have thought of nothing else. You were right about nearly everything. I have no right to ask what I am going to ask. He asks it anyway. Elizabeth listening with her whole body, her weight shifting forward slightly, head tilting toward what he's saying, as if moving to meet it. Her expression opening, question by question, assumption by assumption releasing. Something long closed, beginning to open. Elizabeth does not answer immediately. She has spent 4 months dismantling every comfortable assumption she brought to the first conversation. She has had to look clearly at her own judgment, at its speed, its vanity, its willingness to dress prejudice in the clothing of discernment. She has not found the view entirely flattering, but she has done the looking. My feelings have undergone such a material change since that evening that I can tell you now, it is you I love. I believe it has been you, in spite of myself. He takes her hand, not with the gesture of a man claiming something won, with the tenderness of someone given something he is not certain he deserves and intends to spend a great deal of time being grateful for it. This is not the story of a woman saved by a wealthy man's love. It is the story of 2 people who stripped away each other's most fortified illusions and chose, having seen the damage clearly, to build something honest from what remained.
The family celebrates. Mrs. Bennet takes complete and unapologetic credit. Mr. Bennet shakes Darcy's hand and asks one question, not about Pemberley, whether his daughter truly loves him. We do not end at the wedding. We do not end in candlelight and celebration. We end here, at a tall window at Pemberley, Elizabeth alone for a moment, looking out. She chose love, but she chose herself first. That has always been what this story was truly about. Not whether Mr. Darcy was wealthy enough, not whether Elizabeth Bennet was grateful enough, but whether a woman, in a world designed to reduce her, would insist, against every law and custom and expectation, on being fully known, and whether, having been seen clearly, she would choose with open eyes to let someone in. It is a truth universally acknowledged. But the truth Elizabeth Bennet discovered was entirely, irreversibly her own. And that, no entailment law in England can touch.